10 years. Let me make sure that I'm crystal clear on something that I have been screaming about for a very long time. It was always absurd that there was a disassociation. It was always cruel and unusual punishment that USC decided and the NCAA decided not to acknowledge the genius of Reggie Bush. I am not naive in terms of what happened with Reggie's family and the payments from a booster and the house that the family was living in San Diego. I also understand that Reggie Bush was not able to capitalize on his likeness and his name, and that was highly unfortunate. And finally, college football and all college athletics about to do something about it. But to me, anytime you take away wins, anytime you take away championships, anytime you strip Reggie Bush or a player of an award like the Heisman Trophy, you're trying to tell me that something didn't exist. I saw it with my very eyes. I always go bonkers. I hate that. Whether it's Michigan basketball or Syracuse basketball or UConn basketball, let's punish the coach and take away wins. What does that mean? We all saw it. We all witnessed it. But disassociation, that's even next level. Reggie Bush was the greatest college football player in the history of the sport. Reggie Bush was the greatest college football player I've ever seen. Reggie Bush earned that Heisman, and someone at USC, someone in the NCAA office, better deliver him the Heisman back to his home in California. Because Reggie Bush, the player, the person, was just dragged through the mud. You know, we could talk about his stepfather. We could talk about what transpired. I understand putting USC on probation. I understand dinging them. But to sit there and take everything away from Reggie Bush was always cruel and unusual punishment and just absolutely over the top. And by the way, let's not gloss over my words here, okay? Reggie Bush, greatest college football player ever. Greatest college football player I've ever seen. Now, I know you're going to tell me, Adam, what about Bo Jackson? What about Adrian Peterson? What about Barry Sanders? There are lots of cats you can throw at me, specifically at the running back position. Let me jog the mental Rolodex on these 3 years that Reggie Bush had at USC. He won the Heisman Trophy. He earned it. Two-time All-American. The Doak Walker Award. The Walter Camp Award. How about his 2005 Heisman season? 1,740 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, breaking ankles left and right. He also that year had 37 catches for 478 yards out of the backfield. But you have to remember this when you talk about the genius of Reggie Bush, what he did on special teams. That's why I don't think my statement is in any way, shape, or form subject to hyperbole. 3 years at USC, and he was majestic as a kick returner, a punt returner. He averaged 23 yards per punt return. You look at his all-purpose yards and where they rank, this is why I say the single greatest player in the history of college football. Oh, by the way, won a national championship game. Oh, by the way, also lost in a national title game when you look at that classic with Vince Young in Texas. Who could forget about the Bush Push and Notre Dame? And I've talked to Reggie about this on numerous occasions on my SiriusXM radio show. I just feel so terrible for him. And by the way, he had a really strong career in the pros, too. You know, maybe you could say didn't live up as the number 2 overall pick of the Saints, but he was really strong for New Orleans, helped them win a Super Bowl, was really good in terms of special teams, really good running back and catching out of the backfield for Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Tony Sparano loved him in Miami, and he went over 1,000 yards on the ground. And then you saw him go over 1,000 yards, last running back to do that for the rebuilding since 1957 Detroit Lions. I have just been so sad for Reggie Bush, so sad for USC in college football. I mean, if you remember what USC was with Reggie Bush, with Pete Carroll, with Lendale White, with Matt Leinart, those were great teams, fun to watch teams, some of the greatest college football teams I've ever seen, loaded with integral, amazing defensive ball players. What they did to Reggie Bush for a decade was wrong. There should be a Reggie Bush statue outside the football office at USC. This guy is a football legend, college football icon, single best player I've ever seen in the history of college football. The disassociation always made me sick. Finally, after a decade, they're willing to right the ultimate wrong.